The Superman trailer got a lot of people really excited for the movie, and that's no surprise, because it's packed with action scenes and some really solid dialogue between the characters. But that's not all, because there are also a bunch of Easter eggs, which leads to theories about how the story will unfold. This video is going to focus on every Easter egg in the trailer. There are 43 of them, and we'll also chat about some theories. So without further ado, let's dive into it all, yeah? The Superman trailer is 3 minutes long, and you'll notice that the main narrative point here is the interview with Lois and Clark. Superman is being interviewed by Lois, and when she hits record, we catch a glimpse of the LordTech logo from Maxwell Lord, who's going to be played by Gunn, James Gunn's brother, who showed up in the trailer for the second season of Peacemaker. LordTech is the same company that guy Gardner, Mr.Terrific, and Hawkgirl worked for, acting kinda like a Justice League funded by the company, but it seems like in this movie, the group is called the Justice Gang. For anyone who doesn't remember, Maxwell Lord was also in the DCEU as the villain in Wonder Woman 1984, played by Pedro Pascal. Before the interview kicks off, Clark calls Lois Cronkite, referencing one of the biggest anchors in American journalism from the 70s. In this interview, you can really feel the chemistry between them when they say each other's names. Basically, what's going down is a conversation about the consequences of Superman's actions, making a sort of parallel to the interview from the 1978 Superman movie, where the interview was more focused on Superman's origin, played by Reeve, that eventually led to a more romantic moment when Superman took Lois for a fly around Metropolis. Here in James Gunn's Superman, the interview has a different focus. Lois Lane doesn't get swept off her feet by Superman and stays 100% on point, asking the tough questions about Superman's intervention in a war. Even though these interviews are different in each film, keep in mind that both are super crucial to the film's story. They shape Superman's character development throughout the plot. Clark gets ticked off by these questions cause he didn't expect Lois to take them so seriously, and it's clear in his answers that his main goal was to save people, but he overlooked the consequences he'd face. That's what Lois wants to make crystal clear to Superman. Lois mentions that Superman is taking a lot of heat, leaving the public split even on political matters, and there's this moment where someone tosses a soda can at Superman, which kinda reminds you of that scene in The Boys where a can gets thrown at Homelander's kid. But of course, with Superman, that scene had a totally different ending. And notice that the frame where the can is thrown at Superman was changed. In the teaser released back in December, Superman blinked when he got hit, while in the trailer, his eyes are wide open. This even got some criticism when the teaser came out, and we can assume it was just a reflex from the actor when he got hit while filming, but you could totally see that blink symbolizing the disappointment Superman feels, or maybe even some anger at everything that's been going down. But whatever, they already changed it in post-production, so now he's keeping his eyes open in that quick shot. Then Lois Lane starts talking about the Pentagon and the Secretary of Defense, and we get a glimpse of the Pentagon and Flagg, who already appeared in Creature Commandos and is the father of Flagg Jr. from Suicide Squad, who got killed by Peacemaker. It's clear that Flagg Sr. is going to be one of the important characters in the DCU given his involvement in several projects where Argus is connected. Superman says he stopped a war, and that war might have been between Boravia, probably backed by Lex Luthor, and Jarhanpur, both fictional locations from the comics that James Gunn used to steer clear of mentioning any real countries. Plus, it's made clear how Superman stands on all this criticism. He puts people's lives ahead of everything else. He's that guy who doesn't judge, he just saves people. A final detail in the interview is Superman's posture. The moment the interview is about to start, Clark shifts his posture, which is a clear nod to Reeve's Superman. And in this scene, we also have the shot where it looks like Superman wrote Lois's name in the clouds. Then we get the shot of the city where we see a ship on the street and a building destroyed. There are theories that this ship belongs to the Justice Gang, but honestly, the theory that fits best is that this ship is actually full of war refugees from Boravia or some other country involved in the conflict, especially since during filming, there were photos of people in clothes different from those in Metropolis coming out of the ship, so that's a big possibility. Thanks to set photos, we also know Mr.Terrific is going to be involved in this scene and we'll have a chat with Superman. Next up, we see the Daily Planet with Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, Steve Lombard, Cat Grant, and Ron Troop straight from the comics adapted for this film. After that, we see Lex Luthor helping the US government capture Superman, implying it's because of his involvement in the war between the two countries. If Lex Luthor is doing this, it's probably because he was profiting off that war, and with Superman messing things up, it totally motivates him to plot against Superman and destroy his credibility with the public. Also helping to capture him are Flagg, engineer, who works for Lex and has the power to transform his body into any weapon, and Ultraman, who it seems will be a clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor. He's kinda similar to Noir and the Boys, who's also a clone of Homelander in the comics. However, this concept of a Superman clone created by Lex Luthor actually originates from Bizarro, and old theories suggested that Ultraman might become Bizarro by the end of the film. At this moment, they're on Wade Street, a nod to the legendary comic writer Mark Waid, who has penned numerous stories for both DC and Marvel, including Kingdom Come. There's also another reference to Moore, coming from Alan Moore, the legendary writer behind The Killing Joke, Watchmen, and many other amazing comics. This scene indicates that Superman isn't gonna resist arrest, and based on Superman's expression, this is the moment he realizes Ultraman is just as strong as he is. Then we have this eye-catching scene where Luthor appears all smug and happy watching something. It's probably his reaction to seeing Superman getting arrested, since it looks like he's in an operations center, monitoring the situation. Notice that in this shot where Luthor appears this way, it's right at the moment when Lois, during the interview, asks if Superman even talked to the president before intervening in the war. This isn't random. If Luthor isn't the president in this film, this could be foreshadowing a future in the DCU where Lex ends up as president. Luthor being president has happened in the comics and even in animated series, so it totally fits with the character and would be something we've never seen on the big screen before. Next, we see Superman battling the Hammer of Boravia, a terrorist likely sent by the Boravian president to try and take Superman out for interfering in the war, or maybe he was sent by Lex Luthor, since Lex is pulling all the strings in the film. Like I said before, this villain is tearing down the Chacos building, which in the DC comics is actually closely tied to the Martian Manhunter. From what we can gather, this fight with Superman against the Hammer of Boravia is gonna happen at the beginning of the film, before the interview, as we see people trying to help him up, but after the Kaiju attack, we see many turning against Superman, which might indicate a shift in popular opinion about him over time. The Hammer of Boravia is a new character created for the film, but there's a chance the villain is actually a mix of elements from other villains that Superman has faced over the years in the comics. However, it is still a villain that doesn't exist in the comics, except in the prequel for James Gunn's film. During the fight against the Kaiju, it's clear that Superman is trying to pull the monster's focus onto him, flying over Maxwell Lord's building so the monster wouldn't target the people, cause that's Superman's main goal, to protect the people, not just defeat monsters and villains at any cost. However, we also have scenes where multiple buildings are taken down in sequence, likely as a result of this battle, which explains another shot where Superman is surrounded by dust. Honestly, before the trailer dropped, a ton of people thought, and I was one of them, that Superman was in the clouds, but looking closer at the scene, you can see light poles near him, indicating he's actually close to the ground. So, it could be that all this is actually dust from the collapsed buildings. In the background of that fight scene against the Kaiju, there's a Big Belly Burger billboard, which has appeared in various DC productions and in the comics, and that journalist on screen is William Reeve, the son of Christopher Reeve. Then Superman shows up taking a blast of fire, and actually, that's just a camera trick. This blast came from the Kaiju, not from a war scene, since this trailer makes it seem like the scenes are connected, but we already know Superman's gonna end up with his suit scorched after battling the Kaiju. We've also got scenes that we've seen before, like Krypto bringing Superman to the fortress and Lex Luthor with the engineer in the Fortress of Solitude. It's worth noting the solid bite that Krypto took out of Engineer's face, exposing the nanotech underneath. This makes us think we might see the Engineer all shiny at some point in this movie or in the future of the DCU. Just like in the comics, the Engineer can create any weapon to defend herself. Also, in this fortress scene, besides Luthor, there's also Ultraman and Lex Luthor's girlfriend, Eve Teschmacher, the same character who'll post that pic on social media. Leaks suggest she's gonna play a significant role in the story, but I won't spill too much on that in this video to avoid potential spoilers. We can also see Clark getting advice from his dad Jonathan Kent and hugging him, plus another scene of Clark in bed getting support from his family, while in contrast, Luthor narrates that Superman isn't human, but rather in it. This scene with Clark being helped by his parents and Lois could be a fallout from events after he gets arrested and hurt with kryptonite. He'll likely be out of action for a bit, leading up to the dialogue between Clark and his dad, and his mom later going to grab his suit. One thing to note about the Kent farm is that James Gunn revealed that this house was heavily inspired by the house he grew up in Missouri. Next, we have that purple and green being in the sky that's still a mystery, but it seems to be Solaris, a character from the comics who even appears in All-Star Superman. Notice that in this scene, it looks like this creature is being trapped by Gardner, who's using his ring to create some sort of net. Also, interestingly, at this moment, Lois isn't standing on solid ground, she's floating along with Superman. Then we see Mr. Terrific and Lois behind him, and they're in some kind of portal. They're probably entering the prison in the Pocket Universe to maybe rescue Superman. We also have the scene of Superman being locked up in a metahuman prison, and there's Metamorpho, who has the power to transform into any chemical substance, and in this scene, he's synthesizing kryptonite. In the Justice League animated series, Metamorpho also synthesized kryptonite. His role in the movie is still a mystery, but all signs point to him being blackmailed by Lex Luthor. Next to Superman's cell, there's a character who's also locked up and who likely plays an important role in the story. During filming, there were also photos of this character. There's speculation that she might be an ex-girlfriend of Luthor, whom he sent to this prison in the Pocket Universe. At the Metropolis Meteors baseball stadium, we see Superman fighting Engineer while Mr. Terrific and Ultraman are knocked out. At one point, we catch a biblical reference with the sea parting, and we still don't know what caused that. Was it Lex or the Kaiju maybe? Who knows, it could be the moment the Kaiju shows up in the city for the first time. Gardner, as always, being arrogant and feeling superior, uses his ring to smack a few soldiers around as if he doesn't even care. Some people criticize this scene for not showing the hand coming directly out of the ring, but guys, that's something that used to happen in old Green Lantern comics, but that hasn't been the case for a long time now. Constructs don't have to be directly linked to the ring, and this has shown up plenty in comics and even animations. We also see this scene of Hawkgirl crashing through a window, taking someone with her, and remembering that behind the scenes video, through another perspective, we see that the person with her has white hair, which leads to the theory that this could be Simon Stagg, the guy responsible for creating Metamorpho. Plus, there's that moment where Jimmy and Clark are quickly messing around at the Daily Planet, and in the background, you can spot a little Superman figurine. Other points to highlight include Superman tossing Lex Luthor's desk, then immediately we see Luthor sipping coffee while blaring at Superman. Superman battling something that's shooting something like heat vision, which could be Ultraman or maybe even Lex Luthor himself, since that person looks bald. And to wrap it all up, we see Superman waking up in his bed with Krypto laying on top of him just waiting for him to wake up, and in the background, we can see a banner saying, the Smallville Giants, which is a baseball team from the city. Plus, there's also the poster for the band the Mike Crabjobs, a band that has been popping up in Easter eggs in the DCU. The name of this band showed up in Creature Commandos and in the Peacemaker trailer. One last thing I want to mention involves the Justice Gang. Notice that only Mr. Terrific has a look that's pretty close to the comics, while Gardner and Hawkgirl don't. We know they all wear LordTech uniforms, but there's an additional note about this Hawkgirl: her wings are real, while in the comics, this Hawkgirl, who is Kendra and not Shurera, has metal wings. So, yeah, folks, there really are a lot of Easter eggs in this trailer that make sense with some of the theories we mention here. But we'll have to wait for the movie to see if everything comes to fruition. Did you catch all these details? Was there any Easter egg I missed? Please drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to give a super like on this video, your super subscription, and hit that bell cause I'm always gonna keep you super informed about everything going down in DC. And on top of that, we've also got videos about comics, movies, series, animations, all about our favorite heroes. Also, consider supporting our work through the thanks button near the subscribe button. That way, you contribute to us bringing you even more videos than usual, and always with better quality. Thanks a ton for all the support you give us. For you Superman and DC fans, I'm gonna leave you with these two video recommendations. The first is a video featuring 10 battles where Superman got his butt kicked, and the other video is our mega breakdown of every scene from the Superman trailer. I'm sure you'll dig it. Thanks again for being here for this video, see you soon.